Hi everyone and welcome. FPL Matt Day here. Game week 11 deadline stream. It's not long now until the deadline. So come and join the stream. Get your questions in. I can't wait for this week. We've got game week 11 early kickoff on Friday night in the UK, which is a Saturday morning here in Australia, followed by game week 12. Blank game week 12 because there's no Man City or Arsenal playing against each other. And that game week commences on Tuesday night in the UK, which is Wednesday morning here in Australia. So we've got an absolutely action-packed week of FPL. Can't wait for it. I'm sure yourselves, the viewers, can't wait for it either. But let's get straight into it this week. If you can give the video a like, give the channel a subscribe, that would be absolutely awesome. And turn on the notifications on the video if you haven't done already. Everything helps. Just getting the likes in and the comments as well. Get your questions in the Q&A as well. If you're watching live on Twitter or Twitch, come into the comments on YouTube. Get your questions in for the game week. Obviously, we are not far away from deadline. We've got that Brentford versus Brighton game first up in this game week, which is going to be absolutely huge. So yeah, let's get straight into it. What we're going to start off with is some fixture reviews. So I'm going to go through each fixture, pick a player that I like in the fixture that I think is a good pick for FPL this week. Then I'll be picking some differentials and a player pick for this game week, as well as my favourite captains. And I will also be going through my transfer and my team selection for this week. Then I've got some questions that have come in from my Instagram followers, so I will be covering them on this stream. And any questions that come in on the comments, I will also be covering during this stream. So let's get the share screen up, ready to go, and I will begin the fixture preview. Comments just come in from Football Ferreira. A really good account to follow, so go and give him a subscribe on YouTube. Big up, brother. Thanks for joining the stream, mate. Looking forward to seeing your content this week. I know you do some really good Premier League live reviews, so can't wait to watch them this week. Looking forward to joining you on one soon when it's a good time for me, obviously, because I am in Australia and the time difference can be a bit of a pain. But thanks for coming into the stream. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to share screen. I'm just going to go through this week's games. I'm going to pick a player from each match that I think is going to be good for our FPL teams. So I'll start with the opening game. Like I mentioned, we've got Brentford versus Brighton, which is the early game in the UK. And for the game week, it's a 6 a.m. kickoff here in Australia, which is actually quite nice. You can sort of set the alarm, get up, have a coffee during the game, get yourself up nice and early. And it's going to be quite an interesting game. You know, you've got Brighton having a really good season this year, picking up some good results. Obviously lost Potter, now have a new coach in charge. Been looking good. They play good football. Brentford as well, pretty solid at home. Okay, they got hammered last week by Newcastle. But at home, they've been quite a solid outfit. This is going to be a really interesting game. I personally have got Tony and David Raya in my team. So it will be big for me and my fantasy team. I know a lot of people do have Ivan Toney in their fantasy teams as well. For me, obviously, a Brentford clean sheet would be absolutely perfect with a Toney goal. But I think this could be potentially a sort of a 1-0 to Brighton, maybe a 1-1 type of draw. It's hard to predict who I think the man to have on this team, because I like Trossard from Brighton. I like Lewis Dunk. I like McAllister. But I think I'll just go with the safe and sound Toney. Penalty taker for Brentford. He's been on good form this season. So I think Toney is going to be my player to watch from this game. So that is Brentford versus Brighton, which we've got first up. And then we've got a nice early game on the Saturday night between Leicester and Crystal Palace. Leicester obviously really underperforming this season. 1 win, rock bottom of the Premier League. Against the Palace side, they've been they've been, I guess, hit and miss at times, but, they did pick up a really good win last week against Leeds United, coming from behind to win that game. Really impressive victory. I think this game will have goals. Both defences haven't been at their best this season, so I definitely think there'll be goals in this fixture. I'm going to predict this to potentially be, I'll go with a 2-2 draw. I can't see Leicester winning this one. I can't see them keeping a clean sheet. I know there's been a lot of talks about the likes of Castagna, James Justin, these types of players for this fixture. I know there's obviously still a lot of Danny Ward owners out there. I'm one of them, but I just can't see them keeping a clean sheet in this one. So I'm going to go with 2-2, and my player pick will still be James Maddison. I think, on all the set pieces, obviously a really talented footballer. So that's my prediction for Leicester Palace. Just before I go on to the next fixture, I have just had a comment come in from PSB. Welcome to the stream, mate. I'm going to bring your comment up now. I've had some breaking news in the Premier League regarding an FPL asset that is in a lot of our teams. He's in my team. So this is actually it's actually a brutal piece of news for my FPL team. He said, "Hi, mate. Breaking news, Rhys James could potentially miss the World Cup." Wow. Well, look, obviously devastating for Rhys James. The one thing I will say about Rhys James, fantastic player, talented player, but he does get a lot of injuries. Almost reminds me of when Daniel Sturridge would just be brilliant one week and then get injured the next. And James had a lot of injuries in the last couple of years. I don't know whether he gets rushed back from injury or, it's a tough one to pick. Obviously, from an England perspective, they've got plenty of good right backs. There's tons. It's a position they're absolutely stacked in, but it's still a player you want at the World Cup, you want available. From an FPL point of view, I've actually got a question that has come in about Rhys James, which I will answer towards the end of the stream. But it's actually a really interesting one. When I go through my team selection, I will show my team. Rhys James is still in my squad, so I actually transferred out Zinchenko, from my team, which I'm still. I think I had to do it because I would have had. Also, we'll go through my team later. That is my transfer. I won't say who I've brought in yet, but I think I had to bring out Zinchenko instead of Rhys James because I had to wait for this confirmation of this type of news before doing it. And I also had 3 Man City, 1 Arsenal, which meant I was going into game week 12, where there's a blank between those 2 teams with 4 players. So I did need to get rid of one of them, and Zinchenko was the obvious one because he was injured too. And it was kind of a wait and see on Rhys James. With this breaking news that's coming from PSB, it's now making me think, I'm going to have to move James on. Not this game week, but, either in game week 12, because I've not got many defenders in my squad. Obviously, I'll show when I go through my squad, but I could end up going into that game week with 10 men, or maybe have to then do a -4, or I can maybe wait the following game week. So, yeah, it's a really interesting one. I know there's a lot of managers that are rolling their transfer this week, and they have Rhys James in their lineup. And they have no other bench options. I'd probably use that transfer now based off this news. But yeah, it's huge. And just before I move on to the next fixtures, the last thing on that as well, I will say he's been a very disappointing asset this season, Rhys James. And I think the really tough part for myself as a Rhys James owner was the one game last week against Wolves where I just knew the clean sheet was going to be there because Wolves obviously can't score goals. He was benched and then he comes on for 20 minutes. And then the killer was Pereira was my first sub. It blocked that move and Pereira scored. So us Rhys James owners have had really hard luck this year. When you compare to last season, Rhys James at this sort of point in the season was getting 18 points one week. He got that 21-point haul at St. James's Park, and it was just crazy. But every time I own Rhys James, I got him for the bad run last year, and I've got him for the bad run this season. So, look, we move on. It is only a game, but thanks PSB, one for joining the stream. Love your support, and obviously bringing that breaking news. That is absolutely huge. So I'm sure that topic will continue to come up tonight. So let's move on. We've got Fulham Bournemouth as our next game. This is going to be another really interesting game from FPL point of view because you've got Mitrovic owners wondering where Mitrovic is. Is he fit to play? Is he going to be on the bench? Everyone's wondering. That's another question I've had that's come in about Mitrovic. I'll answer that one at the end. So that's a big one. And then you've got, from a Bournemouth point of view, Philip Billing, who I mentioned a number of weeks ago now. He's showing good form. He's looking like a midfielder you want to own. Dominic Solanke, who's in my team last week, 8 points. I've got Andreas Pereira as well in my squad. He's going to be in my team this week. So there's a lot of FPL potential in this game. And I think us managers probably looking at it thinking, you know what, this would be good if it was a sort of a 3-2, kind of like when Fulham played Nottingham Forest at the City ground. That would be perfect for FPL managers, where the likes of Dominic Solanke get involved on the goals. Pereira gets involved. If Mitrovic does come back from injury and start, he could get in on the goals. So this is one of those games that we're all hoping, as FPL managers, ends in a 2-2, 3-2, that type of thing. So, yeah, big game this one for FPL this week, Fulham Bournemouth, especially, considering a lot of squads do have Pereira and Mitrovic and Solanke and Billing. So, huge one. I'll go with 2-2, and I'm going to go with Dominic Solanke as the man. I know a lot of people might think it's crazy, but he got me 8 points last week. He looked sharp. Knocked down a couple of those of assists. This is effectively almost as a chat. Look, I think Fulham will stay up this year, and I think Bournemouth can still stay up. And they've obviously been solid since Gary O'Neill has taken over. But these games always have that sort of championship feel, because they were championship sides last season. So I'm going to go with sort of a 2-2 draw, maybe 3-2 either way. And I will pick Solanke as the man from this game week. And as PSB's just come in and said, he thinks Big Dom Slang can score a brace. That would be absolutely huge, because I don't have Harry Kane in my team, which is crazy, because obviously I love Harry Kane. But yeah, I've just not been able to find a way to get him right now, unless I move on Haaland or Tony, and I don't want to move them on right now. So I've got Solanke, who did match Kane last week. So I'm hoping Solanke gets a brace, because I think Harry Kane is going to be huge this game week. That's Fulham Bournemouth. Let's go on to Wolves Forest. Just before I do, if you're watching on Twitter, because I have got this stream on Twitter right now, come in and join on the YouTube, get your comments in, ask some questions, interact with the audience. If you've just joined in on the YouTube stream, get your comments in, like the video, and give the channel a subscribe if you haven't done already. It all helps a lot. So we've got Wolves Forest, two teams with no form. Forest, really not looking like a Premier League side of late. Wolves don't have a full-time coach. They're obviously linked with getting Nuno back in charge. Not sure if that will be a good thing or a bad thing for them. But yeah, I think this game, I'm looking at it as, I'm kind of picking I don't dislike either side. But in sort of the phrase of the lesser of the two evils. And I think you'd back Wolves over Forest. You've got to play the fixture on this one. We saw it a few weeks ago with Leicester. No wins all season. The one game they win 3-0, Nottingham Forest. This one for Wolves, I can see this being a 1-0 to Wolves or a 0-0, and just an absolute grind of a game, which is why I'm going to probably pick the likes of Johnny or Maximum Kilman as the player pick from this fixture. So I think a Wolves defender or Jose Sarr, probably isn't the worst option, especially if obviously Wolves do get a new manager or Nuno comes back, and then, they get that new manager bounce as well. So I don't think you can go too wrong with a Wolves defender for this game week. So 1-0 Wolves, I will say. Then we've got my side, Spurs, playing against Everton. This is a huge game, because if Spurs win this, it's their best start to a Premier League season. So huge game. Everton is the team. So the team that Spurs have the most points against in Premier League history is Everton. There's been a number of times Spurs have played Everton in the Premier League and scored 5 goals at home. It's happened a few times. 6 goals at Goodison Park, I remember. I went to a game that was 5-2 at White Hart Lane many years ago. There's been a lot of 3-0s, 4-0s. So yeah, this game has a lot of potential. But Everton have one of the best defences in the league this season. They've signed well with Tarkowski. They've signed well with Connor Cody. They will look to keep it tight. I don't think they're going to be as open as they were in this fixture last season. Harry Kane, for me, is still the player pick. There's been a few whispers in some Spurs forums that he may potentially get rested, which might sound crazy because we need the points. But I think what they mean is he either plays, and if the game is done, he'll come off 20 minutes to go. Because Kane has not had a second rest, really. He's had one game where he come off for like 15 minutes once, but Son's had his rotation, Richarlison's had his rotation, Kulusevski's had his rotation, and they're sort of talking about potentially Son and Richarlison playing as a front two. So if you're a Son owner, this was a week I really wanted to bring in Son, but with all the injuries I had in defence, I just couldn't do it. Plus, I already got Phil Foden, and he's just on too good form to kind of transfer out. So I'm still going to pick Harry Kane as my player pick because I do think he starts, and I think he gets at least 70 minutes. And he will score, in my opinion. And he's only had one game this season that he hasn't scored in, which was the first game week of the season. So I think Spurs will win this one. I don't think it's going to be 3-4, 5-0 like we've seen in the past. I think it will be a case of we'll get the job done, and then probably try and just take the foot off the gas and just sort of kill the game off at the end, because we do have a big game against Man United at Old Trafford, it's still Man United. It's a tough stadium to go to. It's a big game. Followed by, a game a couple of days after that in the Premier League. I'm not sure who we play actually in the following game. We've got Everton, we've got Manchester United. Let me check who we got in that, because then we've also got the Champions League the week after, which means if we win in that Champions League game the following week, we're completely qualified. So Kane has to get a rest at some point. It's Newcastle in game week 13. So we've got this fixture, Everton, Manchester United away, Newcastle at home, who are obviously brilliant this season, and then Sporting Lisbon as well in the Champions League. So yeah, big game, but I'll go with 2-0 Spurs, and Harry Kane as my player pick. Just a comment that's just come in from Evan Abu Baker. He just asked me, can I send you my team? I don't know who to start. Where can I send you my team? Well, what we do, we are doing a Q&A, Evan. So if you stay in this stream for another 10 minutes, give me a subscribe as well if you haven't done already, and like the video. That would be absolutely awesome, mate. Stay in the stream for another 10 more minutes. Type your team down in the comments. So just type your lineup down, and so just type your 11 lineup, and then the following comment, type your bench, and then, ask your question away in there, and I can help you live on the stream. The viewers in the comments can help you as well. And you can also send me the team on at FPL Matt Day on Instagram and at FPL Matt Day on Twitter as well. But if you can get it in the comments on the YouTube, mate, that would be absolutely awesome. And like I've said, anyone else that's tuning in on Twitter or tuning in now on YouTube, get your questions in the comments. We are going to have a live Q&A very soon. So that's Spurs versus Everton. Let's go on to Aston Villa versus Chelsea. Pretty toothless Villa side at the moment. Not looking great in terms of their attack. That's quite blunt, but they haven't lost in 3 games. They've had 3 draws, and one of them was against Man City at Villa Park. So as bad as they have looked, they've also not lost games. So I still think they'll lose this one. I know Rhys James is out now. It's been sort of confirmed from PSB in the comments earlier on. So he's out. But I think Chelsea will win this one. I think it'll be a comfortable 2-0 victory for them. They've just got too much quality. It's a stadium they've had some pretty good luck at down the years. My player pick from this game is going to be Aubameyang. He's got 3 goals in 5 for Chelsea. The chances he's been getting for Chelsea, he's been putting away. Scored a couple of winners before for Arsenal against Aston Villa historically. So for me, I think Aubameyang is a really good pick. If you're stuck on a striker, he could be a really good differential for this game week. So yeah, I think Chelsea will win this one by 2-0. We'll move on to Leeds Arsenal. I've just had another question come in from Jacob Cottle. We are going to do a Q&A in the next 5 to 10 minutes on the stream. So there's a number of questions we'll go through. So stay on the stream. If you are all new, tuned into the stream now, as I can see, we've had some new watchers. Get your questions in the comments. We're going to go through them in about 10 minutes time. So stay tuned. We've just got a couple more fixture reviews, some differentials and some captains. And if you can just give the video a like and a subscribe as well. As you are new here, there's a couple of new names I'm not seeing. That would be brilliant. So we'll get to your question very shortly, mate. But thanks for coming in with a question. Really appreciate it. Leeds Arsenal. Big game for players that have Arsenal assets, because obviously they don't play in game week 12. But they obviously look so good against Liverpool last week. So some really good assets in this one. I think Arsenal will win this game. I think it'll be 2-1. I think they'll go 2-0 up. And then I think Leeds might grab a late goal because it is Leeds at Ellen Road. I think Martinelli is the pick for this one. He got a double-digit score in this game last season. Arsenal are on good form. Martinelli is on good form. I'm actually a bit gutted he's not in my team anymore. I did sell him a couple of weeks ago. But in hindsight, I bring in James Maddison, who did get that 18-point score against Forest. But last week, he only got a point. And this week, if he gets a booking, he's suspended for game week 12. So I am very worried about that one. But yeah, I think Arsenal will win that. Obviously everyone who follows my streams and knows me knows I'm a big Spurs fan, but I've got to say Arsenal been brilliant this season. They're looking strong. They win a lot of football matches. So yeah, no bias from this end. I've got to back Arsenal for the win. Obviously, we're going to go through the Q&A shortly. I just want to bring up this comment. Good stuff from Ernsto Zornetta. Thanks for joining the stream. Really appreciate it. Get some questions in if you haven't done, mate. For FPL, obviously game week 11. Not long till deadline. And if you can just give the video a like and a subscribe, that would be awesome. Next fixture, Man United versus Newcastle. Big game this. Newcastle haven't lost many matches this season. They've drawn a lot. They've drawn 5 games. I think they've only lost 1 though. So a very solid team. There's a lot of people on Pope Trippier double ups. I do think Man United will score. But this game has potential for Pope to make a lot of saves, similar to what the keeper did in the Europa League against Man United this morning. And Man United are vulnerable from set pieces. They're vulnerable from corners. Trippier could have a really good day in this one. Like he could end up not getting a clean sheet, but still getting an assist because obviously his delivery is so good. But from a Man United point of view, it is a tough game. They need to win this. They went and beat Everton last week, to be fair, 2-1. I think that win's gone under the radar because they've gone to Goodison Park after getting absolutely hammered by Man City the week before. But they've gone to Goodison Park and they've won the game 2-1. Cristiano Ronaldo's got a 700th career goal. Great finish on his left foot. It's kind of just completely gone under the radar. Like last year, we're obviously also excited about Ronaldo coming back and being in the Premier League. And then this year, because obviously hasn't had the same minutes, he's kind of come in. He scored straight away. They've won the game against an Everton side that have been pretty solid this season, as we mentioned, one of the best defences in the league, if not the best defence. He's come out, scored. United have won the game. They could have won it 3-1 when Rashford missed a chance. Did get the goal at the end, but it was disallowed. Yeah, I thought that was quite a big win for United. And this game against Newcastle will be tough. Newcastle are a step up from Everton. But their record at Old Trafford isn't great. And I always say, doesn't matter how good a side is playing, Old Trafford is, when you've got a bad record at Old Trafford, it tends to just stick throughout time. So I'd like to sort of say United might win this one 2-1, just based on the history of this fixture. But yeah, I will go 2-1 Man United. I will go 2-1. I know I've got some Man United fans in the comments, so I'll please you guys. And I'm going to go with Ronaldo as my player pick because he's got a brilliant record against Newcastle. And if Ten Hag does decide to start him, he could grab a goal or 2. Got 2 in this last season, got his first ever Premier League hat-trick against Newcastle. So yeah, 2-1. Sorry, Newcastle fans, but I think United might get this win. So let's go on to Southampton versus West Ham. At St Mary's, I've just heard not long ago as well that West Ham have quite a few injury problems now coming into this. You got Zuma. You've got it was Zuma, Antonio. Obviously, Antonio gets a lot of injury problems, who could potentially be out of this. But Bowen and Scamacca are on good form anyway. Southampton not looking great at the moment. really poor. I think they're facing, the most shots in the league getting faced against them at the moment. So they are really struggling. I think West Ham will nick this game by 2-1. Scamacca for the winner. Scamacca for my player pick again from West Ham this week. They feel like everything that he's getting at the moment turns to goals. Very, very good footballer. I'll just quickly bring this comment up that we've just had come in from James Gadsden. Piqueta is his curveball one to watch. 6 million. It's a very good shout. Obviously, he's not had too much luck yet with returns, but I feel like he's one of those players, as he gets used to the league and adjusts to the league and the Premier League, he will start to get returns because he's obviously a quality player. I'm assuming that he's in your team, mate. If he's in your team, just let me know in the comments. Interesting pick. I know there's a lot of people that still have him in their sides and are waiting for him to obviously return some points. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. And now let's just, before we go to the differentials of captains and the Q&A, what I'll do, we'll do the Q&A, differentials, captains, and Q&A, and then my team selection at the very end, because I feel like there's people waiting for the Q&A. We'll do Liverpool, Man City. Obviously, this is the big one. Just bring up this quick comment from James. He just said he is 1 assist last game and got full bonus. Hopefully, builds in it. That is right. He did get the 3 bonus. It was interesting because I was wondering how he got the 3 bonus in the last game, and there you go. It was because he got the assist. So good pick. And all it takes now with a player like that, if he gets 3 bonus from an assist, imagine when he scores a goal, like he's probably going to have the 3 bonus because he gets a lot of touches and he gets on the ball a lot. And that's what's really good for the bonus point system. So very good pick at 6 million. Liverpool City. City have won at Anfield once in, I think it's about 30 or 40 games or something ridiculous. The last win they had was in the lockdown season when there was no fans. So I do actually think this game can be closer than what people are making out, because Liverpool, they got their win at Ibrox. It is a tough stadium to go to. They won 7-1. City had a tough game in Denmark. I know they rotated some players, and obviously they rotated the beast, which is Haaland. I don't think this is going to be an absolute whitewash, as what people seem to think, because it is Anfield. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. Both teams are scoring goals. Obviously, Liverpool are letting in goals, but City have had the game like the Newcastle game where they let in, a couple of goals at St James's. So I'll still go with 2-2. I think the power of Anfield will live on. I think Salah will score this week for Liverpool, but obviously I'm going to pick Haaland as the player. Actually, I won't pick Haaland because I think everyone owns him anyway. So I'm going to pick Foden as the player. He scored 2 goals in his last 2 fixtures at Anfield. So it was a goal last season at Anfield and a goal the season before at Anfield. So he's my player. They drew their 2-2 last year. Foden scored. He's going to be my player from that. So that is that's the fixture preview. So I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. And now let's go through, just before we touch on the Q&A, let's go through my differentials. So I've got 4 differentials here, or 5. One of them's from the same fixture. So if you've got any other differentials, put them in the comments now. Let me know how lowly owned or highly owned they are. Put them in and we can go through them as well. So my ones are, I've got Matt Doherty against Everton for Spurs. So he's one of my differentials. I've gone for, and he's 0.3% owned. He got a double-digit score in this fixture last year. He was rested in the Champions League for Spurs. Emerson Royale is still suspended, so I think he's a really good pick for this fixture. I'm going Edouard for Crystal Palace. He scored in his last 2 games, 5.3 million and 2.7% owned. He's playing against the worst defence in the league in Leicester City. Then Aubameyang from Chelsea, who I mentioned on the fixture preview, 2.7% owned. He's playing against a Villa side, like I mentioned, looking pretty toothless. I think I was saying they've had 3 draws in a row, so they've not obviously lost, but I think Aubameyang will score in this one. 3 goals in 5 games for Chelsea, 2.7% owned. And then the next one, I've gone kind of a joint. I've gone for Kilman and Johnny at Wolves. I know Wolves aren't playing well, but they've still had 3 clean sheets. A couple of them have been at home. I can see this game, like I mentioned on the preview, against Forest being like 0-0 or 1-0 to Wolves. Johnny is 0.9% owned and Kilman's 2.5% owned. I think either one of them could be a really good shout. I've gone for Kilman. I will just say what my transfer is now. I went for Kilman for Zinchenko. I'll show you that in my team selection. Was going to go Johnny at 4.4 mil, but I thought Kilman was just a little bit safer to completely guaranteed to start. Whereas although Johnny's played every game this season and he is more attacking and you've got more potential for attacking returns, they do sometimes. I just feel like if I put him in, then someone like Aït-Nouri will randomly play. And yeah, I just didn't want to do that. But I still think he's a good differential. That's my 4 differentials. Then my player pick for this week's Harry Kane. He's got 6 braces against Toffees in his career. That's just ridiculous. What a record that is. And 13 goals in 14 games against Everton. So absolutely brilliant record against them. So he's my player pick. I wish I had him. I don't. And it's horrible not having Harry Kane, but I just can't fit him in this week with all the other injuries that I've got. I still want him to do well. And I still obviously want Spurs to win the game. And then my captains, Haaland, number 1 pick against Liverpool. High ownership, very likely to score. He scored at Anfield twice before when he was back at Salzburg as well. I think he scores against nearly every team he plays. So Haaland's number 1. Harry Kane's number 2 against Everton, based on that record against Everton I mentioned. He also hasn't blanked this season in any game other than the first game week of the season. And then number 3 is Phil Foden. As I mentioned, 2 goals in his last 2 at Anfield, and he's got 38 points in his last 3 games. And then my curveball captain this week is Emerick Aubameyang away at Aston Villa. Already mentioned, Villa just don't look good. And I think Aubameyang could have a good day out against Tyrone Mings this week. So that's my captains, differentials, and my player pick for this week. So I'll do my team selection at the end because we do have a number of questions that have come in. I'll tell you what, actually, I'll quickly share my team now, just because we can then do the Q&A. So I'll share my team. So I'll just do a quick share screen this week. So my transfer this week, I'm going to put Trippier in there for Rhys James, who we've obviously heard is going to be out of this game. And then I went Kilman in for Zinchenko. I've got Maddison, Zaha, Foden, and I'm playing Andreas Pereira in midfield. And then a front 3 of Haaland, Tony, and Solanke. So Solanke did match Harry Kane last week, so I'm hoping he can do it again from an FPL point of view. Look, this team, I'm not 100% sure it's going to do well. I do like Maddison, do like, obviously, Haaland and Foden. But yeah, there's a few others I'm not too sure on. But yeah, look, I'm happy because if this doesn't do well this game week, then we've got a quick game week, midweek next week for game week 12. As I said, I had to get rid of Zinchenko because if I didn't, I'd have had Cancelo, Foden, and Haaland for game week 12, which meant I would have had 10 men, plus I already got an injury to Rhys James, plus Nico Williams on my bench might not be starting games anymore because of Serge Aurier, who got the start last week. And then also James Maddison's a yellow card away from a ban. So my team could be in a bad way in game week 12. So let's see how we go. But look, let's stop sharing the screen. Let's bring these comments and questions up now. All right. So these are 3 questions I had on my Instagram. So if you don't follow me on there, at FPL Matt Day on Instagram, you can find me on there. You can find me at FPL Matt Day on Twitter as well. Also on TikTok now. So all of them, you can find me on there. So go and check it all out. First question I had was from parkjosh.ua. And he asked me, Perisic or Saliba? Look, it's an interesting one. If you're talking a transfer in, I wouldn't transfer in Saliba right now because he obviously misses game week 12. If you're talking who I would start, I think it's hard to go against Saliba with his form. Leeds' vulnerability from set pieces is big. And Saliba's obviously, colossal in the air. He's been so good from corners this season, set piece search. So I'd actually probably then go with him. You just never know what Conte is going to do with his fullbacks. I do think Perisic. Actually, do I think he gets this one? Yeah, I think he will. Actually, I think Perisic will get this start. But I think if I had to pick between two of them in my team, well, I would pick Perisic as a Spurs fan for my own personal team. But if I took any bias aside, I'd probably go Saliba. Knowing Leeds have not got a good record from defending corners. And he's been picking some big scores up this year, but it's a tough one. And he also asked me to keep Mitrovic in his starting 11. That's another tough one. You know what? If you've got Andreas Pereira on your bench, play Pereira instead of Mitrovic this week, I think. If you don't get enough intel from the press conference from Marco Silva, you don't see enough training pictures of Mitrovic, and, you just don't get enough clear-cut information, I'd be looking at playing Pereira if that's your first sub. If you don't have a first sub like Pereira, and you've just got like a Nico Williams or someone like that, or you've got like a third striker who's like a Greenwood from Leeds, the Leeds Greenwood, then, maybe then just gamble and put a Mitrovic in. But if you've got a good first sub, I'd probably look to play them if you don't get enough intel in the press conference. FPL Culture, good Instagram account, so give him a follow. He asked me a question. Is Andreas de Eze worth a punt this week? I'd say no. And I'd tell you what, I think the Andreas fixture against Bournemouth at home, it's just got so much potential to be an open game. And we saw that Andreas can score, he can attack, he's involved. Does sometimes get a bit of an early sub because they've got like Willian there now and that type of thing. But I think you just play Andreas against Bournemouth this week. I wouldn't do it. I do like Eze, but if you've got Zaha, I don't think you need to double up. And I just think you can play Andreas against Bournemouth. And then my other question that come in from Hot0MVR, he said, hold James or sell for a free transfer. I'd sell now because we had the comment earlier from PSB, which I will bring up again. And he said, hi, mate, breaking news. Rhys James could potentially miss the World Cup. So if this news is almost concrete and we know he's missing this game week 12, game week 13, next few ones, it's probably time to get rid of him now. So I would say get rid of him. So that was all the questions from Instagram. I'm now going to bring up all of the YouTube comments. So thanks everyone who's patiently waited for these comments. And also on Andreas, PSB just mentioned keep Andreas. Willian might not be fit, so he'll be on all set pieces. Well, there you go. That's a perfect reason to play Andreas in your team this week. All right, so let's bring up the question here. So Jacob Cottle, transfer James out for another premium defender or use money elsewhere? I don't think there's any premium defenders right now that are actually worth really bringing in. I'd probably take James out for either a Kilman, Johnny from Wolves. You could even look at a Brighton defender like Dunk. I'd go for someone that is definitely going to start games, is a bit cheaper, and use that spare money in the positions that we know players are firing. Like the 8 million midfielders is the rave at the moment. The likes of Saka, Maddison. Everyone's like Foden, Zaha. So I'd probably get the extra couple of million, bank it, downgrade him, and try and look at those midfielders for game week 12. The other thing you could do, and this is something else I considered doing, is you could even just switch James out for Cucurella or whoever you think is going to play in James's position as an example, and go with another Chelsea defender. And if James is out until the World Cup or after the World Cup, you get unlimited transfers after that anyway. So I'd definitely look to move him on with the info we got that he might be missing until after the World Cup. If that news obviously changes and isn't correct, then, we can kind of see as we go in the next week. But yeah, I think there's potential to either just do a straight switch for another Chelsea defender or just downgrade him and pocket the money. Other questions that come in. We had one from Evan about sending my team. I think he might have sent that to me online. We had, let's see what other ones have come in. James Gaston, downgrade KDB to Foden and use the 4 million to bolster the rest of the team. That's an interesting one. It's tough, isn't it? Because this game week, you look at it and think, okay, De Bruyne didn't fire like we wanted him to in the last game week. It is a bit of a sideways move. It's tough. I'd probably say for this game week, I'd say you may as well just stick. I think if City do score a couple of goals, he's going to be involved in it, whether it's a goal or a couple of assists. He seems to be finding Haaland with like every single pass at the moment. I do like Foden, and obviously his ceiling for scoring goals is a bit higher than De Bruyne's. But yeah, I think right now for this game week, I don't think you need to do that transfer. I think there's other positions that you could focus on. Players that maybe aren't playing in game week 12, from like Arsenal as an example, or other injuries that obviously happened. I don't know if you've got Zinchenko or Rhys James or any of those players. So I feel like that one, I think you can just keep for this game week. I actually just had a comment from PSB, and he's just come in as well. And he said, do that game week 13, KDB to Foden. That is not now. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think right now, I think there's too many other problems. Also, there's a lot of players on 4 bookings as well. And I'm not sure which ones you own, mate, but if you've got James Maddison, if you've got Gabriel Jesus, who are all on sort of 4 bookings. I know Jesus doesn't play in game week 12 anyway, but just say he gets a booking this weekend and then misses game week 13, then I think that's the sort of transfer that you don't need to do. The KDB to Foden one, because it is quite sideways for now. But yeah, that's just our thoughts. Look, we've had some more people join the stream, which is awesome. So if you have just come into the stream, get your comments in now, because we're doing the Q&A right now. Give the video a like. Really appreciate it. And just give the channel a subscribe if you are new here, because it'd be awesome to have your interactions weekly on the videos. So yeah, come and get your questions in. We have had another new one that's come in, and it's from Tom OO, and he said James and Mitrovic can play in game week 11 to 13. Well, we did have a comment earlier, and it mentioned Rhys James. The rumor now is he's going to be potentially out until the World Cup, after the World Cup. So for me, James doesn't play in this game week. There's no chance. Game week 12 against Brentford, again, I just can't see him being back for that. If the rumor isn't true and it's kind of a 1 week sort of thing, then maybe the Man United game in 13. But honestly, with all the news coming out now, I would not count on Rhys James. And as for Mitrovic, yeah, I haven't seen the latest press conference. I know there's been one from Marco Silva, I believe. And I'm not too sure he mentioned much about Mitrovic. All I think he sort of said was he may play, he feels okay. But yeah, I think he's one of them. I think you can sort of start him, and then if he doesn't play again, as long as you've got a good first sub and it's like an Andreas Pereira or someone, then I think you'll be all right. But yeah, Rhys James, no. I think Mitrovic is a bit more touch and go. But thanks for the question. Really appreciate it. We had another one from PSB. What do you think about a Darwin punt for game week 12 against a tired West Ham at Anfield? I love this pick. I absolutely love this pick, right? Darwin Núñez has, I think I've read something earlier, and he's got 4 goals for Liverpool this season, right? But he was suspended for 3 games. And he seems to just be scoring each game he's played. He's actually done well in the matches he's played. And he's a good price. Okay, Liverpool's form hasn't been good. Maybe they'll get a boost after this Rangers win. And I think in game week 12, you can actually go on a Liverpool player. I'm actually still considering using, because I got like 4 million in the bank, and I'm considering doing a Foden in game week 12 because obviously he doesn't play, to Salah, hoping that Liverpool play similar formation to what they played at the end of the Rangers game. Salah goes into like a centre forward position, and if he finishes like he did in that game, then it could be sort of a good couple of game weeks to have Salah. Because in game week 13, Liverpool play Nottingham Forest away, which, as bad as Liverpool have played of late, I think that's one game they will go and get a convincing win. But outside of like Salah, I think Darwin's brilliant. He's getting a lot of chances. He's getting in a lot of good positions. I also think Yotta's a good punt right now. So Yotta, Salah, Darwin. But then you got Firmino. Firmino's on fire. Yeah, I like that though. I think Liverpool attackers, definitely keep an eye on them for game week 12 and 13, especially for the captain's armband PSB, because game week 12 is one where obviously there's no Haaland, so managers have to make a decision. I know there's a lot of people looking at Trossard, but I think the Liverpool players will go under the radar, and not a lot of people have sold now. So yeah, I really like that Darwin pick. Another question: what do I think about Soufal from West Ham? Look, I've liked him as an FPL pick. Like historically, I had him in that lockdown season. He was brilliant, loads of assists, got forward a lot. Right now with West Ham, it's not been the best defensive season. He's not been in the team week in, week out. I wouldn't say. I don't dislike him. I'll bring him up now. Let's have a look at some of his minutes. I like him as a player, and if he's guaranteed to start, I think he's a brilliant asset because he does get forward a lot, and he's obviously a good player. But yeah, look, he didn't play against Fulham last week. He didn't play against Wolves a week before. Yeah, it's not looking good, I don't think, mate, for Soufal. Last night, West Ham obviously played in the that Europa Conference Cup. They won 2-1 against Anderlecht. Soufal did play, okay, so he did get the minutes. Johnson, who sometimes plays at fullback, went into the centre back position of Bonner, Cresswell. But yeah, looking at their bench as well. Yeah, there's no guarantee. They could even put Johnson at right back, and then they've got Kehra. I think it's Kehra, the new central defender, might potentially play in there. We've actually had a comment coming from PSB who mentions the same thing. So I just don't think it's worth it because he's not guaranteed to play. I think Cresswell's always one of the safest West Ham defenders, or what takes set pieces, attacking threat. So if you've got the money, you could go Soufal, especially if you downgrade in Rhys James. Cresswell's actually not a bad option. It could be one to look at. Just going back on the Liverpool stuff, PSB's come out and said he'll be doubling up on Salah and Darwin for that delicious run. So he's definitely got a lot of confidence in Liverpool, for that game week 12 and 13, which is big because PSB is a huge Man United fan. And he said most probably doubling up. And here's one for you, Carl, who just asked the question. He just said Soufal is now probably third choice. Kehra and Johnson are ahead of him, mate. He's playing their European games, which are done and dusted, which is a fair point. I think, if you're on West Ham defenders, you're liking West Ham defenders, because obviously they've got some nice fixtures coming up. Cresswell's the one. On set pieces, you can downgrade him from Rhys James if you are looking at your West Ham picks. But for me, defensively at the moment, I've just gone a cheap and cheerful one from Wolves for the Forest fixture. I've gone Kilman. I think he's just consistent, plays games. Hopefully I can get a clean sheet out of him this weekend. And then even if I get 2 points out of him in the midweek, I just need bodies on the pitch as long as he doesn't get sent off or score an own goal. And obviously you can look at the likes of Dunk. They're playing against a Brentford team that they've scored quite a few goals at home this season. Brentford, they've scored in a lot of fixtures, but they've then got Forest in game week 13. I think like Dunk's another good option from Brighton, or a Brighton defender. Veltman, he's always good for the bonus points as well. We've had some more people join the stream, which is brilliant, on the YouTube. So if you can just get your comments in in the YouTube comments, because I'd like to stay on the stream. We've obviously got some really active people in the comments right now. So if you want to get your FPL Game Week 11 deadline questions in now, or even Game Week 12, anything to do with Game Week 12, Game Week 13, strategy, transfers, captains. We've obviously gone through a lot of stuff so far on tonight's podcast. But get your questions in now, because I would like to stay on the stream whilst we've got this many viewers in the comments. So get your questions on. I'm going to stay on for a bit longer. If you are one of the viewers who's new, hit the subscribe button. That would be absolutely awesome. And give the video a like. I've just had a comment come in from my mate Quinton Dunn from the FPL Amateurs of Oz. If you don't follow them, give him a follow on Twitter, FPL Amateurs Oz. Also a really good podcast. Does a lot of A-League stuff for the Australian local A-League as well. I actually went on to his podcast this week and went through all things for Game Week 2 in the A-League. So go give him a follow. He also comes onto my podcast as a guest as well. So check him out. He's our son. Jesus Haaland. Is the risk worth it for the reward to go a captain outside Haaland? Well, all I will say is the reason I've not had the best start to FPL this season. I had a great season last year, great end to the season. It was brilliant, and I was really excited for this year. And I had Haaland at the start of the season, and then I decided to go against him a few game weeks in, and I went De Bruyne because I just thought De Bruyne was looking better. And obviously I went through the pain of missing out on the Haaland hat-tricks, and then I went against him when they played Man United. And look, I will say, and I know you've been through similar pain, Quinton, because you didn't have Haaland as captain in those game weeks. And all I will say is I think Son will do well this game week. Great record against Everton, really sharp in the European Champions League, great volley, unbelievable. Looks like the Son we knew last season. But I don't think we're going to tear Everton apart, because they have got a solid defence. They play very deep. 1 or 2-0, I think that could be. I feel like if it was maybe a bit later on in the season, when there wasn't so many of these, back-to-back fixtures, because right now we've got fixture, then a midweek fixture, then another fixture, then a Champions League, and I feel like there's a bit more tired legs from, say, sort of like a Spurs in the top 6, whereas Everton come into this game, no Europe, a lot fresher. They're going to make it hard for us. So I would just say, even though I think Son will be okay this week, I think he will grab you a goal, and he does have potential to get more than a goal and assist or a couple. I just wouldn't do it. Jesus, I know he had a knock. If he's definitely fit, I still don't think he's, other than the Leicester game, I don't think he's got a high enough ceiling to be captained. And I just think, do you want to put yourself through that pain again, mate? It obviously felt horrible. I'm not doing it. I'm not personally not doing it. I'm just going to stick with Haaland now. For me, until Haaland goes through potentially a dry patch or picks up an injury, or obviously doesn't feature, which is going to happen in game week 12, then I'm just going to stick with him. Unless I get to a point where Son is scoring like two goals, hitting double-digit scores consistently again, like he did last season, and Salah starts to hit double-digit scores consistently again. Until I see that, I'm not changing my captain again, and I'm going to hope that Differentials and the other players that I have in my team can pull some points back from my average start to the season. So yeah, Q, look, as I always say, play your own game, because you're good at playing your own game. But the one thing I will say, is it worth the risk? Just remember how you felt when he did get those doubles and hat tricks and all that, and you didn't have him as captain. It wasn't nice, was it? So it's the only thing I will say, mate. But look, if that's your gut feeling. PSB did say, don't do it, Q. I went against Haaland versus United, and it was an absolute bloodbath. Well, there you go. There you go. Question again from Carl Tura Bali. Which Liverpool forward to pick from? We did speak just a bit earlier about Darwin Núñez. So I'm going to say Darwin Núñez is the Liverpool forward to pick from, because you've obviously got Jota and Núñez and Firmino. Oh, actually, I'm really liking Firmino at the moment. Big score in the UCL, couple of big scores. I think they'll start to play Darwin though. I think they want more numbers on the board for him, more goals. His finish against Rangers was brilliant the other night as well. I think Darwin, but I think you can wait until game week 12 or game week 13 and see what Liverpool do against City before making that move. But I think Darwin for me. And then PSB, mate, do you think this is more of a Kane sort of fixture rather than a Son fixture since Everton are going to park the bus? It's a tough one. They've both got amazing records against Everton. Kane's is ridiculous, like I mentioned earlier. It's ridiculous. But then Son scored some doubles against Everton in his time. Scored in the home game last season against them. I remember him grabbing a goal at Wembley against them, a couple of goals at Goodison Park against them. Yeah, I know what you mean. So I just feel like if Everton do park that bus, we might then see Kane dropping that bit deeper, trying to kind of he'll then try and entice the Everton midfielders to commit, the defenders to commit, and then he might then put those balls through to Son that he does. Yeah, I think it's 50-50 to be honest. I think they're both good for this fixture. Maybe Kane edges it because of the potential for when a team parks a bus, sometimes a penalty decides the game, and Kane takes pens. I know he missed one in the week, but he did score one as well. So I think it's pretty reasonably split, with maybe a slight edge on Kane because he has hit in every fixture other than one. But good question. Quinton Dunn again. Haha, the pain is real. Just looking at a world where Haaland scores but doesn't haul and someone outside him scores better. That world can happen though, Q, because Aston Villa away, Haaland 1 goal. Newcastle away, Haaland 1 goal. Wolves away, Haaland 1 goal. So the only other fixture Haaland's actually scored 2 goals in was West Ham in game week 1, and it was a penalty and obviously a goal from open play. So that is possible. Haaland's away record, albeit he's still scoring goals, it's not the same as his home record. The one thing I will say is if he does get an early goal in that game, right? Ball in the box from De Bruyne, Cancelo, Haaland gets his long legs on the end of it, City go 1-0 up. You're then going to have to sit through however many minutes of the game thinking, God, I hope this guy doesn't score again. So that's the thing, right? But I can see where you're coming from. But he's a smart man. You are, though, so I should maybe trust you. And yeah, I agree as well with Van Dijk. He actually had Haaland's number in the Community Shield, but a lot's changed since that Community Shield with Liverpool's defence and Van Dijk. So if Konate was fully fit to play, then it could be a bit different because he's a bit of a beast with Van Dijk. But yeah, they got all sorts of problems. Trent, Matip. Like I mentioned in the preview for fixtures, this could be a 2-2, 3-2, 4-2. This game could be huge for goals. Another question from Carl. Do I bench Cancelo or Trippier? Oh, God, that is so tough. Because you've got Cancelo, who does have these big games, right, like this, like Liverpool away, where he comes out with it with a 1 point, and it's happened so many times. It's like I'm going to pull him up now on the screen. So I've just got the screen to my side because I remember against Man United, 6-3, 1 point for Cancelo. So we've actually had this a few times where we've had these big games with Cancelo and he's still come out with a point. Whereas Trippier, Newcastle are conceding goals this season, but Trippier's still getting assists, set piece threats and that type of thing. So it is really, really tough. Technically, Man United is an easier game than Liverpool. But I'm gonna base this on their ownership for you. Trippier's 54.5% owned. Wow, he's really shot up in ownership, hasn't he? Cancelo's, oh wow, he's 54.7% owned. Wow. You know what? What I will say is my team, if Zinchenko had been fit, if Rhys James had been fit, and Cancelo, my back three would have been Cancelo, Rhys James, Zinchenko. Trippier would have been benched. But because I've got an injury to Rhys James, Trippier's coming into my lineup. So I'm lucky I can play both. But I would have probably played Cancelo and benched Trippier. But it is a tough decision this week. That is a tough decision. But yeah, good question. I'd say Cancelo edges it for me. But look, I'm going to stay on the stream because again, we've still got a good number of viewers, which is awesome. Really appreciate everyone that's viewing the show right now and asking the questions. So I want to stay online for a little bit longer and hope a couple more questions come in the next few minutes. So yeah, I can see there's quite a few people in the stream. So get your questions in. Game week 11 is coming up. Not long till deadline. I'm in Australia, so 6 a.m. the deadline is in the East Coast, which is 4:30 a.m. So we're looking at 4 hours and 45 minutes until deadline. So yeah, not long. Brentford versus Brighton up first. Yeah, give the video a like if you're a new viewer. Give us a subscribe. It'd be awesome to get some regular viewers back. Just had a comment come in from Jamil Taya. Who are you looking to replace James with? My Rhys James replacement. At the moment, I think what I'm going to do, like with the way my team's shaping up, I can keep Rhys James for this game week, bench him, Trippier comes on. It's the midweek game week where I don't really have the options because Nico Williams is my other defensive option for that game week to play instead of Rhys James. And he's obviously potentially going to be dropped for Serge Aurier at this moment. The only thing I can maybe hope is Aurier plays this weekend for Forest and Nico Williams plays in the week. So I'll then look to replace probably Rhys James in game week 13 or 14. I'm actually potentially now, I've talked myself in throughout this podcast, I've talked myself in the idea of bringing in another Chelsea defender. Yeah, I'm starting to think, I wonder if Azpilicueta is now going to play each game or if it means Cucurella or even Chilwell. I don't know if they'll go and put a left footer on the right side, but yeah, I think I could potentially make a sideways move, Otherwise, yeah, I might even just swap him for like a real cheapie, like maybe like a Veltman at Brighton, take the money and then use it elsewhere on one of the 8 million mids. Or I might even go, actually, Arsenal's fixtures get good again. Once they return, they play I remember they got Southampton away, Nottingham Forest at home. So I'll probably bring in Saliba. If you haven't got Saliba, I'll probably bring Saliba in. So that's probably where I'm looking, or maybe another Chelsea defender. But yeah, Jamil, actually, PSB, who's been in the comments throughout the stream, he actually did, he actually mentioned that earlier on. So, no, I've obviously had that a couple of times. It's, it's a real pain, isn't it? But yeah, I think he's obviously going to plummet in price. But I don't think it's worth losing him on a hit this weekend. I think just keep him in your squad. If you can afford to take him out for game week 12, do it. If you're looking to, make a change elsewhere, like a transfer you'd already booked in, whether it was, bringing in Trossard or, Darwin Núñez or, whoever else, still use that booked transfer and then deal with Rhys James, the following game week, I think. But yeah, it is a real pain. It's a real killer to my team because, I've just got problem after problem at the moment. So, yeah, look, at least once the World Cup's done, right, we all get unlimited transfers. So, that's going to be, that's going to be good because Rhys James probably ain't going to come back in my team, until he's maybe not for the rest of the season. Because the thing is, if Rhys James comes back after the World Cup, right? Fully fit. They say he's fully fit. He just gets these injury problems quite constantly. And yeah, he's just looking like he might not be an option this season, which, yeah, it's a shame because from an FPL point of view, we're all really excited for Rhys James at 6 mil this season. It seemed really well priced. We thought he was going to get a lot of goals, a lot of assists, a lot of bonus, and it's just not quite been the way. And for those managers that avoided Rhys James, weren't able to fit Rhys James in their teams, you managed to avoid this one, and yeah, it's worked out well for you. So well done to you. Yeah, look, I'm gonna a couple of more viewers are coming the stream, so I'm gonna stay on the stream. I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna stay on the stream. I'm gonna keep taking questions. I might even just run through for the new viewers that have come in. I might just quickly run through my captains again for this week. So I've gone Haaland number 1 captain. I've gone Harry Kane number 2 captain. I've gone Phil Foden number 3 captain. And I've gone Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as a curveball captain if you just want to do something completely different. He is only 2.7% owned. He's got 3 goals in his last 5 games for Chelsea. And he's playing against an Aston Villa side who haven't lost in 3 games, but they're looking quite toothless at the moment. And I think Aubameyang, this could be a really good fixture for him. Actually, I'll tell you what, one thing I need to quickly do. I've just realised my laptop needs to be charged, and I don't want people asking questions and then the stream to end. So that's the captains. The differentials I picked: Doherty versus Everton, double-digit haul in this last season, 0.3% owned. Edouard, 2 goals and 2 for Palace. He's got Leicester this week, 2.7% owned. Aubameyang was another differential, 2.7%, 3 goals and 5, which I just mentioned. And then I said Kilman or Johnny from Wolves, both low owned, 0.9% for Johnny, 2.5% for Kilman. I think, decent fixture on paper against Forest. I'd probably play the fixture, and I think they could be decent defensive differential as we are all trying to find defenders. Welcome to the stream, Football Chat Box. Thanks for coming in. Obviously, 4.5 hours till deadline for you as well here in the east coast of Australia. Hope you're good. If you don't follow Football Chat Box, go check him out on YouTube. He's actually got 2 really good channels. So he's got Football Chat Box where he does a lot of FPL stuff on there. And that's really good. But I actually discovered your FIFA channel recently. So yeah, put that down in the comments if you like, and I'll share that. And I started watching you the other night streaming your Ultimate Team, and that was actually really enjoyable. So that was good stuff. I've actually been doing a little bit of FIFA Ultimate Team, and some FIFA streaming here and there, just when I'm playing the games and foot and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really fun. And yeah, Football Chat Box has got his second channel, which is awesome. So yeah, go check it out. And anytime, mate. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for joining the stream. Like I said, give us a subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the upcoming podcast that I do. I am going to do. So I think I'm going to do my game week 12 stream potentially on Tuesday night, so before deadline. So similar sort of one to this. Monday, I'm looking at doing maybe an FPL kind of reaction video. So a couple of sort of back-to-back videos. Then obviously after the following week, so maybe this sort of time next week, I'll be doing a game week 13 preview. And then the following week, I'll be doing my UCL fantasy preview. So we'll do UCL fantasy as well. So plenty of content coming up on here. Maybe do the odd stream of me playing PS5 and FIFA if you want to jump in and just watch me play. Lose some games on foot, maybe win some games. You never know. So yeah, plenty of stuff coming up on this channel in the next week or so. But yeah, look, unless I get any more questions in the next couple of minutes, I will probably look to wrap it up. I've been going for about 1 hour and 10 minutes. It's actually been awesome tonight. Had some really good comments, some new faces, which is brilliant. I really appreciate it. Some new subscribers, which is great. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at FPL Matt Day. Yeah, look, I'll wait another minute. If there's any questions, get them in. There's obviously been a lot of Rhys James questions tonight. Not too many captain questions. I think we're all pretty sold on Haaland this week. I think everyone's just too scared to go against Haaland. Here we go. Full chat box has actually mentioned a couple more comments, which is awesome. Obviously, thanks for the plug. Anytime, mate. Like I said, if you want to share your FIFA channel or your gaming channel, happy for you to put it in the comments. Now I'll share it on the screen because it is an awesome channel. I really enjoyed watching that the other night. Might have to go Doherty to James. Yeah, well, Doherty's one of my my differentials this week. I actually was so close to doing it because obviously I'm a Spurs fan and I wanted to have some Spurs coverage in my team. And he's so low owned and he got a double-digit score in this game last week. The reason I didn't do it was more so I couldn't do it because I also have Zinchenko who's injured. So I needed to put a defender in that I thought was going to play game week 11, game week 12, and game week 13, which was Kilman from Wolves. I think Doherty has a higher ceiling, especially because I think he's going to play this weekend. And when he plays for us, especially in the home games, he tends to get attack and returns quite often. So it was kind of a case of, I thought there will be rotation for him, not this game, but maybe the Man United game or our game against Newcastle next weekend, like one of them. So I needed to look more of having someone that was just going to be a set constant in my team, consistent minutes. Although Doherty, I think, has got a way higher ceiling for getting like a big point score in any individual game. But yeah, good move, especially if you've got defensive options outside of, in your defense, where if Doherty doesn't play in the midweek, you've got another defender that you can play instead. So, I like that move. And yeah, like I said, it was very close to being mine, but I've just got so many injuries. And yeah, that's what we've said that a few times on this stream, actually, until after the World Cup, potentially, which is an absolute pain because I've got Rhys James and I'm just going to have to bench him now. And then, yeah, I don't know if I'm even going to -4 in game week 12. I might just have to bench him in game week 12 and play Nico Williams, even though he's not been getting the minutes, and just hope that, A, he starts and Forest don't get hammered. Because last time he come off my bench, he got me a -1, or B, he actually just comes off the bench and gets 1 point because that's probably going to be better than nothing at this stage. Who would you go for then for 2 game weeks after Brighton assets? Look, if you want a consistent Spurs defender, because I do think the Everton game is a good fixture. Man United away is a tough fixture. Tough stadium. We never do well at Old Trafford. Well, rarely do well at Old Trafford. We've had a couple of wins down the years, but it's still Man United and Old Trafford. I still think United will score. So Newcastle home again, quite a tough game. Then we got Bournemouth after that, which is a decent fixture. So if you do want to go a Spurs defender, I would say Eric Dyer is the most consistent. He's also been scoring from corners. He's been getting his head on quite a few. I think he's scored from two set plays this season. So I would say for Spurs, for a real consistent one, Eric Dyer. You can't go wrong with him at the moment in terms of starts. But taking that away, I am liking, we mentioned Ryan Cresswell earlier on, because West Ham have some good fixtures. I know their defence hasn't been great, but he's on set pieces. So if you want to look at that sort of set piece threat, we were mentioning Cresswell, we were mentioning Kilman. And we also mentioned potentially a sideways move to another Chelsea defender, whether it was Rhys James's replacement, whether it was Cucurella, or if we think Chilwell was going to start getting the minutes now, because he did start in the game last week. Then we sort of spoke about him. So it is tough with the defenders at the moment. I just went with the Wolves asset because I looked at it and thought they got a lot of home games until the World Cup break. Okay, they're not on great form, but they've still kept 3 clean sheets this year. Kilman had bonus points in 2 of those games, and I just thought, get him in, and sort of go from there. That's kind of how I'm looking at it, mate. But yeah, best of luck with your decision. But yeah, look, awesome stream, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. It's been good. Some really, really good questions that have come in. One more's come in. That's awesome. From ER. Brighton or a Spurs defender as a James replacement. Look, my Spurs cap obviously says Eric Dyer. Like I just mentioned, he's consistently in the team. We've got 2 good fixtures in the next 4. Let's check Brighton's fixtures again, because I know they got Man City in game week 13, which is like, you don't want a Brighton defender in your team for that. And then Chelsea. You know what, actually, I'm going to say go with Dyer or a Spurs defender, because I think Spurs-Everton, Man United away, I think we'll concede. Whether or not we lose, win, I'm not sure what the result's going to be, or draw, but I think we concede. Newcastle home could be a tight game, could be a 1-0, could be a 2-1, could be a 1-1. But then Bournemouth away, I just think those 4 fixtures have more potential for a Spurs defender. Now I'm actually looking at this in a bit more detail than, say, Brighton with Brentford away, Forest home. Okay, those 2 fixtures look good. City away doesn't look good. Brighton playing Chelsea at home doesn't look as good. And I think, okay, they got a couple of other good fixtures till the World Cup after. Wolves away. You think Wolves might have sorted themselves out by then. And then Villa home. Villa might have sorted themselves out by then. Brighton have got a new coach as well. They've been a bit more open. They've obviously conceded 4 goals in 2 games since he's been in charge. So, yeah, I'm actually going to back the Spurs defender now, looking at those fixtures a bit more. So, yeah, good question, Ia. Love it. And welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining. Anytime, mate. And thanks. Yeah, thanks you too, mate. I think you've been having quite a good season from what I've seen on Twitter. I know that maybe last week you didn't have your best game week you were mentioning, but mate, you're still having a much better season than myself. And it looks like you made some really good choices in other game weeks. So plenty of game weeks to be played. So good luck to yourself. And look, I'll call the stream there. We've been going for about an hour and 18 minutes. It's been a really good show tonight. Really enjoyed it. Lots of new listeners, subscribers that have come in. Really appreciate you hitting that like button and subscribing, and everyone that's commented, all the questions. The Rhys James chat has been probably the main topic. And like I said, hit the notification bell if you haven't done already. If you were subscribed to me and it doesn't let you hit the notification bell, you just need to unsubscribe and then subscribe again, then hit the notification bell. And then anytime I do a video or an upload or I'm ready for a video, you'll get the notification. It's a really good feature. Like I said, I'm going to have a stream for game week 12. I'm going to have maybe a reaction video to game week 11, but because it's so close between deadline, game week 12 and 11, I might just do the game week 12 stream, kind of do it all in one. I'll then have the game week 13 stream. I'll have the UCL stream the week after. So plenty of stuff coming up. Like I said, you can find me on @FPL Matt Day on all of the socials. But yeah, look, I reckon we will look to wrap it up. I'm going to give it another 20 seconds because I've just seen a couple of other people join the stream and I just want to make sure I don't miss a question. But if you do end up watching this stream on pre-record in the next 4.5 hours before deadline, then you can ask me questions on there anyway. I'll try and answer them before deadline. But look, that looks like it's it. It looks like it's it. No more questions. So look, I want to say thanks to everyone for joining the stream. Thanks for all the comments. It's been absolutely awesome tonight. And look, good luck everyone for game week 11. It's going to be a very interesting game week with this Liverpool Man City game. We've got some real open fixtures with Leicester Palace, Fulham Bournemouth, Brentford Brighton. There's some really big games. Another huge game week of FPL. And look, if you don't have a good game week, don't worry, because game week 12 is just around the corner. So look, brilliant stuff. And anytime, mate. Thanks for joining the stream. And look, we'll leave it at that, everyone. Thanks for joining. And I will see you all in the next one. Good luck for game week 11.